Hello everybody. My name is Juana Adcock. I'm a poet and translator from Mexico. Been living in Scotland for a long time. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be hosting this evening. Thank you all so much for coming. And thank you, Ghayath Almadhoun, for coming to Edinburgh. And so a little bit about the format of this evening. I will introduce Ghayath, and then we'll have some reading in Arabic and in English, and then a little bit of a Q&A. So if you have things that you want to ask or discuss, please be prepared so we can have that part of the evening. And that's pretty much it. Sound good? Okay, like I say, I'm very, very excited to be here and to be hosting. So Ghayath Almadhoun was born in 1979 in Damascus, son of a Syrian mother and Palestinian father. He has written four books of poetry. The one that we're launching tonight is I Have Brought You a Severed Hand, in the English translation, by Catherine. And his work has been translated into about 30 languages. He spends most of his time traveling around the world, going to poetry festivals and readings, and he's collaborated with artists such as Jenny Holzer. And what else? Done a number of residencies, been awarded writing fellowships in Germany, like the DAAD. And so he's an absolute poetry rock star, and we're very lucky to have him here tonight.
Thank you so much. Good evening, and thank you for coming. Yeah, I write 4 books, actually 5, but let's count them 4 because the first one was terrible. Actually, the second also is very awful. I don't like any one of them in general, but I keep like the last book until I got the new one. So officially I have 1 book. So. Catherine Popham, I want to thank Catherine Popham for the translation. She teaches in St. Andrews University, so in this country. I think she's English. I don't know. Yeah, mostly she's English, teaching in St. Andrews. And this book is the second book she translates after Adrenaline.
I have it here.
Yeah, well, no.
So the American publisher is Action Books, so this was published by Action Books, and the UK publisher is Divided, by the way.
Yeah, so it's the second book by Catherine after this. And the book this time came after the 7th of October. So the things for me it's different, totally different. So I really need to say this before we begin because I don't want to look like a paranoid. But after the 7th of October, there is some kind of hidden boycott. I don't know how to describe it. It looked like a paranoia, but like, for example, I really want to say this. It's my second German book. My first one came 2018, 1 month before the Leipzig Book Fair. I got 10 invitations to Leipzig Book Fair. I chose 5, 15 reviews. And the book was chosen by Let Prom as the best translated book into German. Let Prom is a reading club which they give Adania Shibli the prize and which cancelled by Frankfurt Book Fair. This book came this year 1 month before Leipzig Book Fair. 0 invitation to book fair. It was, I think, the only German book was not represented in the book fair. 0 reviews, not even release until now, 5-6 months. So yeah, either I'm paranoid or something. But so this, what I want to say, people think this is only in Germany, but no, it's all over the planet. It's became different. I don't know how to describe it. So I'm so happy that you are here and you came. This makes me feel that life is okay. And there's something good going on. We read?
Yeah, let's do it. Yalla.
So, how many people speak Arabic here? One. My only audience. You can audience in English. You say audience and audience.
لا هو audience.
Audience.
Oh.
So you can't make it.
لا.
Make it for you. Audience.
شرف لي.
Like I invented this audience.
There might be some people online though.
Yeah.
كيف أصبحت؟ سقط حزنها من الشرفة وانكسر. أصبحت تحتاج إلى حزن شديد. حين رافقتها إلى السوق كانت أسعار الأحزان خيالية فنصحتها أن تشتري حزنا مستعملا. وجدنا حزنا في حالة جيدة غير أنه واسع قليلا. كان كما أخبرنا البائع لشاعر شاب انتحر في الصيف الماضي. أعجبها الحزن وقررنا أخذه. اختلفنا مع البائع على السعر فقال إنه سيعطينا قلقا يعود إلى الستينيات كهدية مجانية إن اشترينا الحزن. وافقنا. وكنت فرحا بهذا القلق الذي لم يكن في الحسبان. أحست بفرحتي فقالت هو لك. أخذت القلق في حقيبتي ومضينا. مساء تذكرت القلق. أخرجته من الحقيبة وقلبته. لقد كان بجودة عالية وبحالة جيدة رغم نصف قرن من الاستعمال. لا بد أن البائع يجهل قيمته وإلا ما كان ليعطيناه مقابل شراء حزن رديء لشاعر شاب. أكثر ما أفرحني به هو أنه قلق وجودي مشغول بحرفية عالية وفيه تفاصيل غاية في الدقة والجمال. لا بد أنه يعود لمثقف موسوعي مسجون سابق. بدأت باستعماله فأصبح الأرق رفيق أيامي وصرت من مؤيدين باحة السلام. توقفت عن زيارة الأقارب وازدادت كتب المذكرات في مكتبتي ولم أعد أبدي رأيا إلا ما نبغى. صار الإنسان عندي أغلى من الوطن. بدأت أشعر بملل الآن. أما أكثر ما لفت انتباهي هو أنني أصبحت شاعرا.
How I became. Her grief fell from the balcony and broke into pieces, so she needed a new grief. When I went with her to the market, the prices were unreal, so I advised her to buy a new grief. We found one in excellent condition, although it was a bit big. As the vendor told us, it belonged to a young poet who had killed himself the previous summer. She liked this grief, so we decided to take it. We argued with the vendor over the price, and he said he'd give us an angst dating from the 60s as a free gift with it, if we bought the grief. We agreed, and I was happy with this unexpected angst. She sensed this and said, "It's yours." I took it and put it in my bag, and we went off. In the evening, I remembered it and took it out of the bag and examined it closely. It was high quality and in excellent condition, despite half a century of use. The vendor must have been unaware of its value, otherwise he wouldn't have given it to us in exchange for buying a young poet's low-quality grief. The thing that pleased me most about it was that it was an existentialist angst, meticulously crafted and containing details of extraordinary subtlety and beauty. It must have belonged to an intellectual with an encyclopedic knowledge or a former prisoner. I began to use it, and insomnia became my constant companion. I became an enthusiastic supporter of peace negotiations and stopped visiting relatives. There were increasing numbers of memoirs in my bookshelves, and I no longer voiced my opinion except on rare occasions. Human beings became more precious to me than nations, and I began to feel a general ennui. But what I noticed most was that I had become a poet.
لو كنا في عالم افتراضي تكمن عبقرية دانتي في الليمبو. تأملها قليلا وستدرك فورا أننا نعيش في أولى طبقات الجحيم. قطع.
If we lived in a virtual world, and there's an epigraph, even though the window is virtual, the dead are real. And that's by Khaled Soliman al-Nasi. 1. The war is over. The war is over, but the bombs are still falling inside my head. If we lived in a virtual world, I would have cleaned the window overlooking your house with an electronic newspaper, and the plastic rose that I put on my brother's grave would have blossomed. The war is over, and the friends who went to the market to buy a fresh death were killed on the way. If we lived in a virtual world, I would have recycled my friends, for I need second-hand friends. The war is over, and the dead have returned to their families safe and sound. The martyrs have returned to their mothers in one piece. Mothers have returned to their houses. Houses, streets, mosques, eyes, legs have returned to their owners. Fingers have returned to hands. Rings to fingers. Schools to children. Washing lines to balconies. Lovers to rooftops. My brother has returned to my mother, and I have returned to Damascus. If we lived in a virtual world, I would have forgotten to remember the war, and remembered to forget it. As the dead forget the general's features, and the martyrs remember the way home. The war is over, and all those I knew are dead, or war criminals, or dead war criminals. If we lived in a virtual world, I would have turned off the war like you turn off the television. But we were born into a bitch of a world. And when people are born into a bitch of a world, time changes into a typewriter, and the dead become poems. Comedy footnote. The genius of Dante lies in his description of limbo. Think about it a little. You'll realize immediately that we're living in the first circle of hell. Cut.
ليست مشكلة هذا العالم أن ربع سكانه يذهبون إلى عيادات الأطباء النفسيين. المشكلة أن الباقين لا يذهبون. قطع.
2. War. I tried to translate the war from a Semitic language into an Indo-European language for you. So you were hit by shrapnel. I tried to come to your aid, and so we were besieged by news bulletins. The Security Council tried to send us smart weapons and security guards of average intelligence, confiscated them. We insulted the Red Cross, and the Vatican objected. We ate the flesh of dogs whose owners had been killed, and the environmentalists objected. We were saved from drowning, and the European right objected. How can I describe to you how much this world resembles the beating of skinny hands on the thick walls of gas chambers and detention camps without giving you PTSD? How can I explain the difference between house slaves and field slaves without making you confuse Syria with surrealism? How can I say in the same poem, my friends were tortured to death and you are more beautiful than New York, without Lorca laughing in his grave, or poetry being separated from reality? Tragedy footnote. The problem with this world is not that a quarter of its inhabitants go to psychiatric clinics. The problem is that the rest don't. Cut.
نيويورك تايمز تقول إن الحليب أبيض. بول سيلان يقول إن الحليب أسود. أمي تقول قطع.
The tree, and the axe was looking, while I was lost in translation, calm as a ceasefire, stuck in a blue planet in a remote suburb of the Milky Way. I saw a gazelle devouring a wolf, blood dripping from her teeth. I saw barren women suckling fetuses that were born dead. I saw electronic flies emerging from Twitter and hovering over my friends' corpses. I saw a country travelling in a fishing boat and a man eating his dead brother's flesh, not metaphorically as in the Quran, but eating the flesh of his brother killed in a bombing raid so as not to starve to death. The wind passed and didn't find the tree or the city or the country. The dogs didn't howl, the caravan didn't move on. My wife, the widow, looks at me, and the war is as clean as a game of chess. Barrels of oil rise in price, and barrel bombs of TNT fall on cities. Planes lick school textbooks and suck children's fingers, while I am silent like a European citizen who enjoys the privileges of the first world and asks with the innocence of a domesticated wolf, which is harsher, the Swedish winter or the Arab spring. Absurdist footnote. The New York Times says milk is white. Paul Celan says milk is black. My mother says there is no milk. Cut.
مجاز من عالم افتراضي. كان دانتي على حق. إن هذه الكوميديا التي نعيشها إلهية، أو لكي نكون منصفين فلنقل إنها إلهية بنسبة 97% على الأقل، وإلا كيف تفسرين أن كل ما حولنا يشبه مجازا خارجا من عالم افتراضي؟ الأزهار تمارس الجنس عن طريق النحل. أدولف هتلر كان نباتيا. نحن سعداء لأن الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية لم ترمي القنبلة الذرية على طوكيو. المؤيدون للدكتاتور يخرجون بمظاهرة تطالب بمنع التظاهر. أنا أحبك. الله يبيع الأراضي المليئة بالحليب والعسل. فنلندا أسعد بلد في العالم حسب تقرير السعادة العالمية. الصليب الذي تضعينه في عنقك ما هو إلا آلة تعذيب رومانية، هامش تراجي كوميدي، بما أن الجميع سوف يموت في النهاية، فإن نسبة الموت في سوريا والسويد واحدة. قطع.
4. A metaphor from a virtual world. Dante was right. This comedy that we are living is divine. Or to be fair, let's say that it's at least 97% divine. Otherwise, how do you explain the fact that everything around us resembles a metaphor from a virtual world? Flowers have sex via bees. Adolf Hitler was a vegetarian. We are happy because the USA hasn't dropped the atomic bomb on Tokyo. The dictator's supporters demonstrate to demand the banning of demonstrations. I love you. God sells lands full of milk and honey. Finland is the happiest country in the world, according to the World Happiness Report. The cross you wear around your neck is no more than a Roman instrument of torture. Tragicomedy footnote. Since everybody is going to die in the end, the death rate in Syria and Sweden is the same. Cut.
So maybe you should, not only reading, we should say something. So about this poem, I wrote it in 2019. I was, in that time before I moved to Berlin, I was in Amsterdam in the Netherlands Advanced Study, NIAS, and I went to my office. It's only across the street. And I went to the office in the university, and one of my colleagues say, "Congratulations." I say, "Oh, thank you." I thought maybe I got a prize or something. I think, "Oh, thank you for what?" He said, "Because the war in Syria has ended." I said, "What?" He said, "Like, the war is ended." I was calling even my mother 30 minutes before that. I could hear even the bombing. So I say, "Who said that?" Said, like, the Dutch government, like in Holland, the government decided that the war in Syria is ended because they want to send this refugee, or they don't want to have more refugees. I don't know. But it was so funny. So I told him, "Okay, thank you." And in the night, I couldn't sleep. It's not funny anymore. So it take a while until I understand that it's pure evil. Like it's not funny at all. Like what's going on? So I couldn't sleep. So I began to write this text. Imagine that if the war is ended and my brother became alive again and he went back to my mother, and me myself went back to Damascus, which is happening. I went to Damascus after I set fall down, and I saw my family after 16 years. But that idea that when a government decided something like that, it made me understand a lot of things. Yeah. But that if we were in a virtual world, we are not, we are in the war still. So we read the Ode to Sorrow. Yeah, that have also story. Maybe I should tell. Tell it. Yeah, so I was invited to participate in a festival in Holland, in The Hague, as we say in English. Den Haag. And in this festival, Winternacht, the winter night, they told me, "Yes, we would like to ask you to rewrite the European anthem, the anthem of the European Union." And I told them, "We have one?" I didn't know that we take the European Union serious. Like, I should not tell this story in Scotland now. Anyway, so I told them, like, so we have, like, we are really one, and then they say yes. So, and it is like Ode to Joy. It's by Schiller and Beethoven, the famous. Yeah. So, So I told them, so what I'm supposed to do? They told me, like, you write it, rewrite it. And I say, are you sure you asked Palestinian to do this job? But they were like, let's say they were white innocent. This is the word we use instead of naive. I don't know, yeah. So I wrote the poem, I sent it to them, they were very happy because they, of course they can't read Arabic. Yeah, you should see the faces of the people when I read it. Well, yeah, it was a good day, let's say. That's a good experience. How many parts you want to put in?
All of it.
Ah. Spending the time of this.
But we like hearing the hearing the
so
Arabic,
we
right?
read yeah, I will read with you. I will read the part I like. So I will read this part. نحبك يا أوروبا، نحب فنك ونكره تاريخك الاستعماري، نحب مسرحك ونكره معسكرات اعتقالك، نحب موسيقاك ونكره أصوات قنابلك، نحب فلسفتك ونكره مارتن هايدغر، نحب أدبك ونكره الاستشراق، نحب شعرك ونكره عزرا باند، نحب الحرية التعبير في أرجائك ونكره الإسلاموفوبيا، نحب تطورك الحضاري وعلمانيتك وقوانينك العادلة وحقوق الإنسان على أرضك، ونكره عنصريتك ومعاييرك المزدوجة ونظرتك الاستعلائية وتاريخك الدموي.
Ode to Sorrow. We love you, Europe, old continent. I don't know why they call you old when you're young compared to Egypt and Mesopotamia. We love you, Europe, and pay you taxes as white men do, and put up with your volatile mood that resembles your weather, and the serious lack of vitamin D caused by your dark winters. We love you and are saddened by the fact that we will never get used to this gloomy darkness in your long winters. For here are our European friends, I mean your original inhabitants, who were born in your cold north to Aryan mothers and fathers, suffering like us from depression and a lack of vitamin D because, according to the theory of evolution, they too are Homo sapiens arriving from Africa. Your real original inhabitants, I mean the Neanderthals, who evolved during the Ice Age so they could bear your cold, are now extinct. We love you, Europe, and we don't deny that we came to you from backward third world countries, as you call them. I myself came from Damascus and endured a lot of cliches, stereotypes, and preconceptions from your writers and poets. Despite the fact that I consider myself a feminist, I've become bored and fed up with the constant superficial questions about the situation of women in the Middle East. I acknowledge completely that women in Syria only got the right to vote in 1949, but in Switzerland, capital of your money and the money of our dictatorships and their secret bank accounts, women only got the right to vote in 1971. And of course, that wasn't in all the Swiss cantons. The canton of Appenzell in Nerhoden only granted full voting rights to women in 1991, for God's sake. We love you, Europe. We love the freedoms you gave us when we fled into your arms, and we pretend not to notice the racism that you try to brush under the rug when you sweep the living room. We love you, Europe, mistress of the colonial past, killer of original inhabitants, bloodsucker of people from India to the Congo, from Brazil to New Zealand, mistress of the Inquisition, burner of women on the grounds that they were witches, mistress of the slave trade that transported blacks to the New World, creator of apartheid in South Africa, founder of fascism and Nazism, inventor of the final solution to exterminate Jews, the final solution that caused me to be born a refugee in Yarmouk camp for Palestinian refugees in Damascus, because you had the audacity to hand over my country, Palestine, as a payment, a compensation, and a solution for the Holocaust that was perpetrated by those of your white inhabitants who believe in the purity of the Aryan race. We love you, Europe, and we carry your passports that open doors for us as easily as your bullets ripped open the flesh of millions of Algerians who wanted to enjoy the freedom called for by your French Revolution. We love you, Europe. We love your art and hate your colonialist history. Love your theatre and hate your concentration camps. Love your music and hate the sound of your bombs. Love your philosophy and hate Martin Heidegger. Love your literature and hate Orientalism. Love your poetry and hate Ezra Pound. Love the freedom of expression within your own boundaries and hate the Islamophobia. Love your advanced civilization, your secularism, your just laws and the human rights on your own territory, and hate your racism, double standards, your arrogant outlook, and your bloody history. Take Nazism and give us Immanuel Kant. Take the black shirts and give us Italian wine. Take the genocide in Algeria and give us Baudelaire. Take Leopold II and give us René Magritte. Take Adolf Hitler and give us Hannah Arendt. Take Franco and give us Cervantes. Take your things and let us take ours.
This book, it's called I Have Brought You a Surreal. It's a very awful title. Even in Arabic it didn't work. But I insist to have it, and then because I don't interact with the translation, I give the publisher house in the translation to do what they want, to choose the cover and the title, change what they want. I only interact with the Arabic, because it's my book. The rest is not mine. So I say for them, you can do what they want, but the English and in Holland and in Germany, they insist to have the same title. Anyway, the title, there is something like, there is a man without hand appear in many of the poems. And there is a cut hand everywhere, in the dreams and in the poetry. So I began to think about it. And I have two friends, they are therapists, so I let them read the manuscript and I asked them about it. So the first one, he say that he think it is my brother who got killed in 2016 in Syria by Assad regime. And that missing of my brother Hassan is like I lost part of my body. The other one, he say, yes, it could be this, but also one of the poems here is called I Have Brought You Syria. And in the second part, it began with I have brought you a severed hand. So he think it's that being a Palestinian and Syrian, and I lost both. So it could be Palestine or Syria and my brother. I don't know, but because they mentioned my brother, and because when he got killed, I was already missing him for 8 years. I left in 2008 in Syria. So I decided to call it I Have Brought You a Severe Hand because of him. And I'm sure there's little poetic in it, even if it's ugly. Yeah, and my publisher is a genius. My publisher is my best friend, and he have this like he's the designer of all the books of this publisher house, and he say, listen, it's one of the biggest mistake in the design to say something and put it in the cover, like to say apple and put an apple. And because it's considered to be a big mistake, in the last 100 years, nobody did it, so let's do it. And he did this. So I felt it's like genius, like, it's something nobody do. Yeah, so now we will read the poem where there is a cut hand. Yeah, but you see that the British publisher house, they didn't follow the American, for example.
The American cover.
Yeah. So the German, they didn't. Can I tell you some secret? Yes. So,
We want the gossip.
no, that's it. Look, British, they didn't say translated. They hide it inside. Because if you write translated outside, nobody will buy it. The German, the same. They didn't mention. Why in Holland and the American are brave. They say translated. This is between us, huh? Don't tell my publisher. But no, I noticed like in some markets, if you say translated, nobody will buy the book. Yeah. So this is we read it one by one, okay? يدي التي خرجت ولم تعد. أنا رجل حر من بلاد ليست حرة. أكتب قصائد حب على هيئة كوابيس وأوزعها مجانا على قتلى ولدوا من أمهات قتيلات. يدي التي ربحتها في السلم خسرتها في الحرب، ولذلك لا أستطيع أن أضمك بشدة.
My hand that left and did not return. I am a free man from an unfree country. I write love poems in the form of nightmares and distribute them for free to slaughtered people born to slaughtered mothers. My hand, which I won in peacetime, I lost in war, and that's why I can't hold you tight.
خسرتها في الحرب، ولكنني أحيانا أراها في الحلم تربت على أكتاف الشهداء فأبكي كالرجال، بينما يبتسم الله في الصورة الجماعية، وأحيانا أشعر بالبرد فأبحث عنها لكي أدسها في باب الموقف، ولكنني لا أجدها.
I lost it in war, but I sometimes see it in a dream, patting martyrs on the shoulder. So I cry like a man while God smiles in the group photo, and sometimes I feel cold. So I search for it, so I can put it in my coat pocket, but I can't find it.
أنا رجل حر من بلاد محتلة، يدي التي أكلها الذئب هي الجزء الوحيد مني الذي لم يلتقي بك، ولهذا نشعر دائما أن هنالك شيئا صغيرا ناقصا بيننا.
I am a free man from an occupied country. My hand, which was eaten by the wolf, is the only part of me that has not met you. And that's why we always feel there's a little thing missing between us.
أنا رجل حر من بلاد تحلم بالحرية، يدي التي خرجت ولم تعد، كثيرا ما أحاول أن أضمك دونها، ولهذا أبدو وكأنني أحبك نصف حب، لكنني أريدك أن تتذكري دائما أنني حين أضمك بيد واحدة يا حبيبتي فإنما أنا أمنحك مزيدا من الحرية حينما يأتي يوم تقررين فيه الرحيل.
I am a free man from a country that dreams of freedom. My hand that left and didn't return, I often try to hold you without it, and that's why I seem as if I only half love you. But I want you always to remember that when I hold you with one hand, my love, I am just giving you more freedom for the day when you decide to leave.
So now I will read a poem from 2008. So, in 2008, I left Syria to Sweden. My father is 6 months older than Israel. So in the Nakba, when it's happened in 1948, he was around 6-7 months old, and they pushed my family from part of Gaza Strip in that time. Gaza Strip was bigger, Ashkelon. So the family went inside Gaza and they built a tent in Khan Yunis, what became Khan Yunis refugee camp, which it's not exist anymore after 7th of October. And my grandfather died, he couldn't handle it. He was 33. Most of the Palestinian men died in that year. But very easy heart attack, because the society was very masculine and macho. Patriarchy, responsibility on men. Most of them, they were wealthy and they found themselves in a tent and no food, so they couldn't handle it, and they began to die one by one. No one will ever tell you the story of the Palestinians. Anyway, my grandmother took care of the children. In 1967, my father turned 18. And in that year, Israel occupied Gaza and East Jerusalem and West Bank from the rest of Palestine, and Golan Heights from Syria, and small part of Jordan, and Sinai Desert from Egypt. And in that time, Israel 10 times folded, like from 20,000 square kilometers to 200,000. So they occupied the whole region. And in that time, they arrested my father with another 2,500 young men between 18 and 25. And they took them through Sinai Desert for 4 days without food. Nothing. 2,500 people without food. Only some drops of water. Until the canal of the Suez. And then put them in boats and throw them in Egypt. My father continued from Egypt to Jordan to Syria, where he met my mother. But my grandmother was in Gaza, and he never saw her again, and we never met her. She died alone in 2012 in Gaza. In 2008, I left to Sweden. And then I began to search for her mobile. In Syria, you can't call Gaza, and the opposite, because Gaza is occupied by Israel. It's have the same international code, and there is no code between Israel and Syria. So my father was not able to call his mother. I arrived to Sweden, I searched, and I find that she didn't have a mobile, but she had a house telephone. And I reached the number and I began to call her. So I began to speak with my grandmother every day. She told me hundreds of stories about maybe 250 Muhammad Almadhoun cousins, and like 175 Ali Almadhoun. She told me horrible stories about things I don't need to know. She was speaking all the time. She can't hear well, so she told me the stories of my 23,000 cousins. This is official number, I'm not exaggerating. My family is 23,000. Don't ask me how this happened, but it's happened. It's a miracle, yes, it is, because they came from one man and one woman. For sure, we know that. But I got an idea. I was very poor in that time, but I find a way to buy another telephone, and then I began to call my father in Syria and her to her telephone in Gaza, and I make the speakers and I let them speak with each other. And I succeed to let them speak. In that time, that's what the best technology I arrived to get. Because she didn't know anything about technology. Also, she didn't have any like iPhones or like smartphones or something. Anyway, this happy period, I arrived to Sweden on the 2nd of September 2008. So this happy period is a 3 month. In the end of December 2008, Israel began to attack Gaza. The first thing they bomb is the telephone tower. Yes, of course. You know, the Israeli are professionals. So, and in that time they killed 1,400 civilians, 900 of them women and children, and that was a shocking for me. This is like this number they kill in only 1 week these days. In that time, 900 women and child in a very short period was a shock for me, and it made me rethink about everything I know. Anyway, the war after it ended, it's remained from 2008 to 2009, so it take even during the new year. And then the war ended, and the Palestinians are very poor. It take a lot of time until they fix the tower. And then I spoke with her, and she was not only alive, she was more than alive. She spoke with me, and she was like telling me this like a speech, let's say that. And I told her, take it easy, you are not speaking with Al Jazeera, you are speaking with me. Yeah. And she told me something really was important for me. Because when she said no one can broadcast, like in the Jews, they will never will be able to do I don't know what. And then I say for her, you don't mean the Jews, you mean the Israeli. And she told me, what do you mean? I told her, like, you want to say that Israel will not broadcast, not the Jews. And she told me, like, what do you mean? And in very fast, I was like thinking, then I asked myself, why a woman born 100 years ago didn't got the chance to go to school, should know the European history. And there is a man was called Adolf Hitler, was killing the Jews, ended in final solution. And there's something in Europe, only in Europe, called anti-Semitic, where European killing the European Jews. And why these alphabetic women should know all this when the intellectual in Europe didn't know anything about the history of others or the Middle East or like this. She told me, what do you mean? I told her, no, I didn't mean anything. You're right, the Jews. Keep it exactly like this. And that was one of the things that really made me rethink about everything. But why the Arabs should know anything about European history if the Europeans, intellectuals, professors, know nothing about Cambodian or New Zealand or the places they even occupy. So I say for her, no, you are right. There's a family with white skin and blue eyes from Poland living in your house. You live in a tent in Khan Yunis, and when your children grown up, they took them from you, and you remained alive until, yeah, so you understand. Yeah. I wrote this poem. I didn't tell you the story because I want to read this poem, but it's a chance to tell you the story that I wrote this poem while I was not able to speak with her. This is the last poem we will read, and I hope if you have questions, we can make some kind of dialogue. Yeah, and fuck the occupation, by the way. This is the most important things I want to say. نحن المتناثرين شظايا الممطرين لحما نتقدم بالاعتذار الشديد من هذا العالم المتحضر فردا فردا رجالا ونساء وأطفالا لأننا وبدون قصد منا ظهرنا في منازلهم الآمنة بلا استئذان نعتذر لانطباع أشلائنا في ذاكرتهم البيضاء كالثلج ولأننا خدشنا صورة الإنسان الطبيعي الكامل في أعينهم لأننا وبكل وقاحة قفزنا فجأة على نشرات الأخبار وصفحات الإنترنت والجرائد عاريين إلا من دمائنا وبقايا أجسادنا المتفحمة نعتذر من كل العيون التي لم تجرؤ أن تنظر في جراحنا مباشرة لكي لا تصاب بالقشعريرة، ونعتذر من كل من لم يستطع إكمال وجبة العشاء بعد أن فاجأته صورنا طازجة على التلفزيون. نعتذر عن الآلام التي سببناها لكل من رآنا هكذا بلا تجميل أو تقطيب أو إعادة جمع لبقايانا وقطعنا قبل أن نظهر في الشاشات. ونعتذر أيضا من الجنود الإسرائيليين الذين تكلفوا عناء الضغط على الأزرار في طائراتهم ودباباتهم لتحويلنا إلى قطع. نعتذر منهم عن الصور البشعة التي تحولنا إليها بعد أن صوبوا قنابلهم مباشرة إلى رؤوسنا الطرية، وعلى الساعات التي سيقضونها الآن في عيادات الأطباء النفسيين ليعودوا بشرا كما كانوا قبل تحويلنا إلى أشلاء مقززة تلاحقهم كلما حاولوا النوم. نحن الأشياء التي رأيتموها على الشاشات والصحف، والتي إن اجتهدتم في جمع بقاياها كلعبة البازل فإنكم ستفوزون بصورة واضحة لنا، واضحة لدرجة أنكم لن تستطيعوا أن تفعلوا شيئا.
We who are strewn about in fragments, whose flesh flies through the air like raindrops, offer our profound apologies to everyone in this civilized world, men, women, and children, because we have unintentionally appeared in their peaceful homes without asking permission. We apologize for stamping our severed body parts into their snow-white memory, because we have violated the image of the normal, whole human being in their eyes, because we have had the impertinence to leap suddenly onto news bulletins and the pages of the internet and the press, naked except for our blood and charred remains. We apologize to all of those who did not have the courage to look directly at our injuries for fear they would be too horrified, and to those unable to finish their evening meals after they had unexpectedly seen fresh images of us on television. We apologize for the suffering we caused to all who saw us like that, unembellished, with no attempt having been made to put us back together or reassemble our remains before we appeared on their screens. We also apologize to the Israeli soldiers who took the trouble to press the buttons in their aircraft and tanks to blow us to pieces. And we are sorry for how hideous we looked after they aimed their shells and bombs straight at our soft heads, and for the hours they are now going to spend in the psychiatrist's clinics trying to become human again, like they were before our transformation into repulsive body parts that pursue them whenever they try to sleep. We are the things you have seen on your screens and in the press. And if you made an effort to fit the pieces together like a jigsaw, you would get a clear picture of us, so clear that you would be unable to do a thing. Okay, so I don't know if anyone has a question or a comment for Ghayath. Please feel free. So I'll just repeat the questions for the audience online. What drew you to poetry in particular?
Yeah, it looked like a simple question, but it's not. So it's all began because I want to write a love poem for like girl I like. And here I am 30 years after that, sitting here, trying to explain that thing happened 30 years ago. So how it became serious is by accident. Really, my intention was to win the heart of that young lady. I was also young. I was 15 and she was 15. And I want to use the magic of the words to be able, well, you know, it was like a very strong love, you know, in that age. It remained for at least 3 weeks. That was the long. Yeah. Anyway, the other part, which is I'm involved of it in a very problematic way, that my father is a poet and journalist, and his brother is a novelist. My uncle, his brother, is also the winner of the Arabic Booker Prize for prose. This is my father's side. My mother's side, Salah, the brother of my mother, my uncle, is a poet also. So I got from both sides. He was killed by Russian bombing in Syria, 2017. He's a French citizen. And I informed the embassy about him. So yes, Salah, he didn't publish, the brother of my mother. But yeah, so you could say I inherited from both, but this is very problematic because I'm really against both of them. We are really good friends, me and my father and uncle, and like we are really good friends, but I mean we are, you know, the generations of literature, yeah? So we are in a clash. Yeah. So what I want to say that best writers who didn't came from the background like me, most of the great writers in history, they didn't come from a family where there's writer. The worst writers who came from the, yeah, it's proved. The worst artists and writers in history who came from a family where there is an artist and writer. So that's yeah, it's like you could check it, like it's physics, like it's not scientific. What do you call it? Reality. Facts. Yeah. So this is the fear of me all the time. Like, okay, he came from the privilege. They don't know anything. Anyway. So yeah, this is the situation. But then I also did very weird decisions. So around 2007, 2008, it's like 1 year before I leave to Sweden, I got this very weird thoughts that why, if you go to cut your hair, this man called Barbier, it's his job. He cut the hairs. And the person who sells vegetables, he sells vegetables. And the doctor's the same engineer. Why poet need to do other job? Like he should write, a journalist, teach, and like this. Why every person on this planet do his own job and the poet should do something else? And then I got this weird idea that I will never do anything else outside poetry. And then people say for me, but you will starve. I say, and then I make it different. I say, I will never do anything except poetry, even if I starve to death. Like, and from that moment until now, never teach, never wrote essays, articles, critique, nothing. So yeah, I don't have children. They try and put me on this situation, you know. Yeah. So yeah. So the relation with poetry is problematic. Began as playing, and then I find that I am going in this sand, drowning, And after the first book, you began to understand, oh, you got a lot of friends because of the book. And a lot of people stop speaking with, and then you have enemies, and then you are stuck in a situation you were not familiar. Yeah. But yeah, this is the first part. Because I told you it looked like simple question. And the real part, what was the motivation behind it? I was fascinated by the Quran, and there is a section in the Quran, it's called Surah Al-Shu'ara, the poet surah, the poets surah, the surah of the poets, or the section of the poets. And in the end of this long surah, there's some verses where it say, وَالشُّعَرَاءُ يَتَّبِعُهُمُ الْغَاوُونَ أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّهُم فِي كُلِّ وَادٍ يَهِيمُونَ وَأَنَّهُمْ يَقُولُونَ مَا لَا يَفْقَهُونَ. Anyway, so the translation say somehow that God, when he speak about poets, he say, don't you see that they are traveling everywhere? And here we should remember that I was a paperless in Syria. So the Palestinians are two kind. The people who came in 1948 and they have Palestinian Syrian passport, so they have document, and they are 90% of the Palestinian. And the Palestinians who came in 1967, they are also stateless, like them, but are paperless. So we don't have document. So I'm not allowed to travel. And the God in the Quran say, don't you see they are traveling everywhere? Later on, when I grow, I understand it have two meanings. And metaphorically, it means they are traveling everywhere by meanings and imagination and like this in their poetry. Also, it means they are travelers, nomad, vagabond, like Bedouin. Yeah. So I was fascinated with this, that I want to be a poet, because is the opposite of my situation where everyone allowed to travel, but I don't have any paper to travel. So for sure, when I was young, so it's clear where I'm going. I want to be a poet, and I want to be traveling, roaming the world. And guess what? I'm traveling only 320 days per year. There's 30 years only to wash the clothes and change, like buy new tickets like this. So this all together, I don't know which one is the like this, but yeah. Yeah, so the Quran. So if you, like, if anyone have problem, you should ask the God to tell about this. Why in Islam we have a poet section. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and also the most important thing is I really enjoy writing poetry. It's a joyful thing.
Any other questions?
Do you have like a genre that you consider your poetry?
Do you have a genre that you consider your poetry?
Like stream of consciousness or meter?
I only write love poetry. But I didn't succeed. I swear. Like all these poets, the motivation was to write love poetry. But my memory is fucked up, let's say, like, so, literature in the end is a reflection. And in general, art is reflection of things didn't happen. It's a reflection of imagination, and the imaginations are not limited like reality. So this reflection came, as I always say, reflected by a broken mirror. So the direction of the reflection is not expected, and what exactly will be reflected in like this. But what I know 100% that when I sit to write about love. Love of life could be, love of food, I don't know, love. But I am an organic intellectual, 100%. And when I know Gramsci say that intellectual should be organic. If he say it or not, I will explain for you what my way of being organic. Organic intellectual, it's mean that the intellectual are not isolated from reality. And I say intellectual, not artist, because many of the artists are not intellectuals. So intellectual should not be isolated from reality, and that means he will be at least able to say truth or to power, and will be able to touch the wound or put his finger inside it, you know, like the doubt in Christianity. Yeah. So, because of that, because I'm not isolated from reality, I can't lie to myself. I can't, as we say, when you open the window in the morning and you say crop, a dead body, and a flower, it will be so shameful if you write a poem about the flower. And in the moment I will write a love poem, it should come as a reflection of my normal life. So, because I am honest, I'm not isolated from reality, so of course I will reflect the death of my friends, the destruction of the country I came, the immigration, being in a situation I don't want to be, the Islamophobic and racism in everyday life, paying tax in Germany to kill my family in Gaza, where 30% of the weapons came from Germany. Yeah. And also, because many people always say that my poetry is political. And you know, everything is political. Because it's related either to gender or class or background or economy. But why, when you read the New Yorker, the two poems in every week in the New Yorker, why they didn't have anything political? Because they were deleted. Because the people, they delete anything connected to politics so they could be accepted and published. And then the poets began even to make the delete automatically while they are writing. They became professional. Yeah. So when there is a poem, it's not political, it is because somebody deleted. It's, nature didn't come like that. Also, yes, we'll come to that. Also, when they say for me it's political, I say no, it's my life. But it's both. So yes, it's political if the Scottish poet, when they write about nature, then it should be political because they reflect their life, I reflect my life. You understand me? So the genre, it should be love. The result, as I always say, and it say in the book also, that I write love poems in the shape of nightmares, or the form of nightmares, to be specific. So.
I love the way your poetry is.
We have 5 minutes, sorry, just to...
I love the way your poetry is in conversation with other poets. I was particularly intrigued by your citation of Paul Celan. So that was the first part of my question. But then I'm really interested in, do you consider yourself part of a school or a coterie of Palestinian poets or Palestinian Syrian poets? Do you know, who are the poets that you feel that your poetry is in conversation with, speaking with at the moment?
Yeah. So for the second part of the question, it's more complicated because I insist, and this is a choice, I insist that I don't walk what we call the posh or the street we open in the forest, and then with the walking it became like a street, a small narrow thing, you know. I don't like to walk on them. I want to open my own path. So I always afraid from being in a school. But it could be something wrong, but I do it. I love many poets. My favorite two ones, they died in the last like 5 years. Saad Youssef is Iraqi living in London, and Amjad Nasser is Iraq, a Jordanian living in London. They were like poets I felt that I could communicate with, but our poetry is totally different, but I enjoy reading them.
Could you repeat their name?
Yeah, Saad Youssef is an Iraqi and he was living in London. Saadi Youssef. And Amjad Nasser is Jordanian and was living in London. And both of them, they were very good poets and also travelers. And I think that there is something between me and them. But we are totally different. They are like Saad Youssef, when he died, was 90. So we are totally different generation. And Amjad Nasser, he was like around 60. Anyway, for the first part of Paul Celan, so in shortly, because we have only 3 minutes. Yeah. So when I read Paul Celan for the first time, I thought when he mentioned the black milk, I thought like the rest of the people in the world that he mean the death of the Jews in the concentration camp. So black milk, and he described it also. That we were drinking the black milk in the morning, during the day, in the evening. Yes. So this is what I thought. And then, when my brother got killed in Syria, and all the people I know got killed, there is millions killed by Assad. Millions, really, not exaggerating, millions. Maybe 2.5 million. Sorry, for 13 years he was able to kill around 600 per day to arrive to this number. So when this happened, and when I saw that everyone I met from my left circles, they told me, oh, he's a great man fighting the imperialism. This is only fake news. And when my family were starving under the siege of Assad regime and bombed by Russia and Assad regime, and I tell the people, and they told me, no, this is only propaganda. Then there were bitterness inside me. And then when my brother got killed, then I understand what is the black milk. The black milk is not the death of the Jews in the camp, it's the silent and the denial of the rest of the world towards this. This is the bitterness. And then I began to drink the black milk every day. Because you are dying, you are starving, you are like this, and people still they say, oh, he's fighting the imperialism. Which imperialism? What is more imperial than killing 2.5 million, bombing 450 city and village and town of your country for 13 years? Because they don't want you to be the dictator. So when I began to write this poem, Black Milk, I was rewrite it and rewrite it for 8 months. Until my ex stopped me before I got sane, and she told me, publish this version, because each version is different than the one before. I was rewriting and rewriting. And the one is published by accident is the one when she stopped me after like 8 months. It would be different. The one before and the one will be after. So I ended with this, and I give him the chance to march. So, you know, in Evian Conference, refused to accept any Jewish refugees in 1938 in July in the Evian city. 32 Western countries meted, and they don't accept to have one Jewish refugees. Not even one. Not even the United States, not England. No. So 4 months after that, the Crystal Night happened, and the final solution after a couple of years. So in the end of this poem, I let Paul Celan, where he suicided in the Seine River in the 70s, I let him go outside the Seine River and march with the Syrian, where they were marching to the north. When they opened the borders, Germany opened the borders to not repeat history. So he didn't get the chance to be a refugee at that time. So I gave him the chance in 2015 when they opened the border. So while the Syrian 100,000 of them were walking from the Balkan towards Sweden and Germany, when they arrived to the scene, so he came with them and he.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Yes. And I bring with me some copies of Adrenaline, the English and the Arabic. So if somebody wants to sign it, I'll sign it for him. Thank you so much for coming.